Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Ashley Drews. I am the HR director at Production Workforce Professionals and Pro Resources. And I'm excited to talk to you about becoming an employer of choice today. So we'll just go ahead and get started. All right. So the technical term for being an employer of choice is a business that's recognized. Yes.
Ashley, I think your sound cut out a little bit. Did it cut out for anyone else?
I was able to hear her just fine. Anyone else having an issue?
Is it cutting out for anyone else?
No.
Then maybe it's just me. Never mind. Sorry, Ashley.
Okay, no worries. So we'll just get back into it. So the technical term is a business that's recognized as a great place to work. Essentially, this recognition has to be organic. It can't be fabricated or inauthentic. People see right through it. So when a business is known as an employer of choice, it attracts the best and brightest candidates who want to work for a company whose values align with theirs. It also creates a positive work environment. So being an employer of choice has benefits like attracting top talent, a favorable reputation, an engaged and productive workforce, and also cost savings because you don't have those turnover costs. Especially for employers of choice, candidates applying to the company expect that the applicant and interview process are seamless, timely, interactive. They expect this to be done on a platform known as an applicant tracking system, or an ATS for short. And a lot of the ATSs that are out there do integrate seamlessly into the employee onboarding portals as well. So that is a cost savings for anyone on the administration side. So basically a win-win if you have that type of platform. Not only does it help your candidates, it also helps your internal team as well. So those keys to retaining those employees are more likely to stay with a company that values employees as people and offers opportunity for growth and development. In order to retain good employees, communication, transparency, and continued educational and training opportunities are a must. So for example, you can offer training programs on different training platforms that are tailored to each individual employee or department. Trainings can be done, both in person and on those training platforms, which enhances the employee's retention as well. Some people learn differently. So if you're doing trainings on multiple different platforms, like I said, in person and on online platforms, it does also help with that retention of those training materials as well. So each skill level can be trained for in that regard. You can also engage employees with team outings, team building exercises. Those will encourage stronger bonds within your team. And retaining and attracting those top talents can come with some cost reduction associated as well. So I'll get into that a little bit later, provide some statistics for you there. But all right. So those keys to retaining employees, how do we retain employees in a job market like nothing else we've ever seen before, right? According to a recent survey, the items in the bullet point list here are things that employees want. This is across all generations. So some of these areas are more important to employees in certain generations than others, but they all make the list. So for example, maybe someone is a young parent and work-life balance is really important to them. Flexibility is really important to them. Or maybe they're a grandparent who has found themselves caring for, their grandchild full-time. Flexibility would be important to that person as well. Having a voice at work and rewards and recognition, that's going to be super important to someone with a really big growth trajectory, a lot of ambition. They want to be at the top of the company. That's going to be super important to that kind of person. Another item I want to mention is I've had a lot of experience in my work with technology systems. Employees expect adequate, if not cutting edge, technology platforms for both their job duties, and then also, things like updating their address and viewing their pay stubs and interacting with other employees. So those are things that can be helpful as well for employees. This is maybe more impactful for the millennial or the Gen Z generations, but I just want to mention our millennials are in their 40s or nearing their 40s. So they grew up using the internet, they grew up using computers. I mean, it was maybe a little bit different. They might have had to kick their older brother off the phone so they could use the internet, but they were still using computers and used to, those technology platforms. So I'm not saying you need to go out and invest in, the most expensive platform, but having something adequate can hold a lot of weight. So a client of mine had significant IT issues for a few years. IT manager was unresponsive, simple requests for troubleshooting, additional monitors, new keyboards. They went unresolved for years, and I'm not exaggerating. Employees waited a long time, and some employees ultimately left the company, but I'll get into more on that later. I have a great real life story for you. All right, this graphic kind of speaks for itself. It's a great tool to kind of put out there what employees want, why they stay. They stay when they're paid well. Kind of goes without saying, but they're mentored. They want to, be known that there's growth within the company. They want to be challenged in their work. They want to do work that's important to them. They want to be promoted when it's warranted. They want to be involved in the process, involved in those decisions. They want to be appreciated. They want to be trusted to do their job, and they want to be empowered to make those decisions for their role or for their department. And they want to be valued as well by their company, their supervisor, and their leaders within the company. All right, so some more on those benefits of being an employer of choice. If you show that you value and support your employees, you'll have more consistently engaged and motivated employees. So I mentioned this earlier, their satisfaction will drive them to do their best work. There is a survey that I saw recently where, excuse me, you may see as high as a 200% increase in performance in those employees that are highly engaged. Excuse me, 'tis the allergy season. So a 200% increase in performance, that's huge. A successful employer of choice strategy involves creating that welcoming, positive environment, a supportive workplace culture, and having those new employees feel welcomed and accepted by their coworkers is huge. Assigning them a mentor on their first day can be a really great tool to help with this. You want them to feel like they belong, and having someone, even just a point person, a mentor that they can go to for simple questions is a great thing for them. It makes them feel like they belong and they feel welcome. Of course, this motivation will optimize performance levels and keep you above your competitors who may have maybe not such a great work environment or not such a great culture. So if your employees feel valued and supported, they'll also be more eager to contribute new ideas, new approaches, strategies to your company in return. So this obviously is beneficial for your company. So where it all begins, businesses become known as an employer of choice by their culture, their reputation, and letting employees tell their stories. So this can, sometimes be related to maybe you have a testimonial video with your employee discussing why they like working there. It doesn't have to be overproduced. It doesn't have to cost a ton of money. In fact, it feels more authentic if it's, maybe just shot using a cell phone and edited as you see fit. This also will help attract customers because customers want to do business with companies that value their employees. They want to leave a positive impact on the community. So that can be another great benefit as well. Research by LinkedIn shows that companies with a strong employer brand receive 50% more qualified applicants than other companies that maybe don't have as strong of an employer brand. So today's recruiting, it's all about experience at the company and what others say about you, what your employees say about you, what other companies, that might work with you have to say. If you're a good company to do business with, people want to work for you. Another way that we've seen some of our clients have great success in attracting new employees is by asking current employees, like I said, to create those short videos. And maybe it's as simple as, a 15-second, hey, what's your favorite thing about working here? Shoot the video, edit it quick, and throw it up online. It doesn't have to be big, long, or overproduced. You can also take a survey, formal or informal, ask your employees what their favorite thing is, maybe create short little videos around that. Another positive way you can increase your company's reputation is by supporting community activities and events that maybe align with your business or your business values. And then ideally your employees would also help as well. So maybe there's a volunteer opportunity that could, come to fruition. And the power of a specific thank you. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. Oftentimes we tell employees, coworkers, thank you, right? But something where you give a 10-second explanation of what was truly impactful for you or your company will mean a lot more. It'll hold a lot more weight. So instead of, me walking down the hall and thanking my coworker, Rebecca, for, something, I would maybe walk by and say, hey, Rebecca, I just wanted to tell you how impressed I was with your work on this project. Your thoughtfulness in the process was really beneficial. I could tell that team members really responded to it, and I could see that your enthusiasm for it really shined through. So I just want to thank you. I appreciate your work on that. That holds a little bit more weight. It feels a little bit different than just walking down the hall and saying, hey, thanks, Rebecca. Another example might be, hey, Taylor, I really appreciated how you stepped up when George was sick and led the team to complete the orders for the day. Thank you for helping us meet our goal today. We are so glad that you're on our team. See the difference? It feels a little bit different. Just giving that 10-second explanation of why you were thankful is really beneficial. And it costs nothing. And it helps your employee retention, engagement, and their reputation, their thoughts of the company as well. So if you're not already doing that, I'd like to encourage and challenge you to do so. Spend 10 seconds explaining why the thank you was beneficial. All right, so we'll get into this real life success story. So remember those IT frustrations I mentioned a few slides ago? That happened at this manufacturing company that I'm about to share with you. So to put it bluntly and truthfully, things were bad. IT frustrations galore. IT tickets and troubleshooting requests never followed up on, ignored, took months, if not years, to get answers on. Supervisors not holding employees accountable, benefits premiums that were through the roof, pathetic PTO policy, no bereavement leave, inadequate pay and raises, and only if an employee threatened to leave the company. The list goes on, truly. Me and my team met with the owners, met with managers, tried to explain what we were seeing, but they weren't open to hearing it. So you might be thinking, well, this is probably a really small company that's just bootstrapping things together, trying to make it work, can't offer some of those things. I wish I could say you're right. This is a company that's been in business since 1940s. They had over 100 employees and definitely no cash flow problems. Simply management and ownership deciding over the course of a handful of years not to adapt to the employment market shift. So one day, a direct competitor moved in right next door, literally right next door. They had a young owner. They had a strong workforce. They had strong engineering capabilities. They were able and eager to adapt and do the right thing. They paid well. They had a generous PTO policy and market competitive benefits. As you might imagine, they lost several employees to this company. Fast forward about 2 months, 5 of their top employees submitted their resignation on the very same day. This wasn't planned. It wasn't some vendetta against the employer. It was all organic. All 5 of these employees had been either looking or approached by companies that they ultimately went to. They each individually submitted their resignations on the same day. In some cases, the company fought to keep these employees, offering them, an incremental raise that, frankly, they probably should have had years ago. But ultimately, they all decided to leave. So that fateful Friday afternoon, after a 2-week notice for all 5 of them, 50 years of company service, walked out my client's door, never to be seen or heard from again. And I wish I could say that's the worst of it. Employees kept falling like flies over the course of the next month or so. All said and done, there was a total of over 100 years of combined service that left the organization and went to direct competitors in a matter of a few months. Frankly, I know that much of that could have been avoided. So we met with ownership and management, and they decided to take a step back. They said, okay, what's going on? Let's look at our wages. Let's look at our benefits. We provided benchmarking data for both wages and benefits. They were finally open to hearing what we'd been trying to tell them. So they realized how off base they were in such a competitive employee market. And I'm happy to say that due to the efforts of our team, they have updated their PTO policy. It's much more competitive now. They've provided adequate and long overdue raises. They've increased their per diem for their employees that need to travel, and they've taken safety much more seriously. So all things combined, they are well on their way to becoming an employer of choice. All right, I have a quick question for you guys. How would you rate your company's current attraction and retention efforts on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest? Just want to get a gauge of, where you might be at and what you're thinking. You can just go ahead and pop that into the chat function, and I'll read off a few here. All right, awesome. Thank you guys for your participation. I see an 8, 7, 5, 9, 7. Those are great. Those are great numbers. I'm happy that we have such strong and capable manufacturers here. That's wonderful to hear. Fantastic. Another 8. Thank you guys for your participation. Wonderful. All right. So because you have such great recruitment, attraction, and retention efforts going on at your companies, you may already be employers of choice. So we're going to get into a few signs that your business may already be an employer of choice. So if you're receiving positive employee feedback, maybe you've done some of those culture engagement surveys that I mentioned. Maybe they're coming back with great feedback. Oops, excuse me. Sorry about that. Maybe those surveys are coming back with some great feedback. Maybe your employees' level of commitment and motivation are really great already. So that's fantastic. Then reviewing your recruitment metrics. So your time to fill, your applicants per role, so how many people are applying for an open position, offer acceptance rates, how many candidates are accepting your offer, cost to hire, the cost invested in recruitment related to the number of hires, And then that first year attrition rate. So how many of those first year employees are you retaining? And how many are saying, I'm going to find a different place to work? So if your first year attrition rates are great, your time to fill is good, your applicants for a hire is good, acceptance rate is good, you're probably already well on your way, if not already an employer of choice. Those strong retention rates as well. So those recruitment metrics. So if you're seeing a good number in your retention, if you're seeing low turnover, that's great. That means that your company is already an employer of choice. All right, so as a continuation here, if you have a great employer brand already, that's going to increase your visibility and attract that top talent. So this can include, your digital brand building tactics, as well as your recruitment marketing strategies. And if you're making significant brand building progress, you're probably seeing those applicants come in at a greater rate as well. And then defining your company culture, your values, and your mission, and communicating that to potential hires and even your internal, employees, if you haven't already, can really help align the right candidates with your company. So candidates that have, a great values in certain things, and your company also values those things, that's a great match. If you have received industry recognition, so if other companies in your field recognize your achievements, then you're taking major steps forward in becoming that employer of choice. When your competition and your partners start noticing and complimenting on your progress, that means you're growing and developing into a major industry player. And then wellness programs and employee assistance programs. It's no secret that the pandemic impacted employee mental health, and whether it be anxiety about illness, loneliness, isolation, or even just maybe the fear of unknown. Coming out of the other side of the pandemic, there's still an increased number of employees going through mental health and wellness related challenges. So if you have an employee assistance program, that's a great tool. If you have an employee wellness program, if you have both, that's even better. Even if you don't have either of these programs, and if you remember literally nothing else from this webinar, please remember this number, 988. Anyone can call or text. It's a free suicide prevention and mental health crisis number. So that number again is 988. Anyone can call or text, free of charge. And that you can give out to any employees that might be struggling, whether or not you have these programs, but it is a great free tool if you don't. All right, I have another quick success story for you. In working with and doing some research for a trucking company client of ours as part of our wellness initiatives, we came across a survey that the average life expectancy of an over-the-road truck driver was 61 years old. Their life expectancy was 61. So we, frankly, were just flabbergasted by the statistic, and we knew we had to help. So we launched a full wellness campaign with them. They offered incentives for quitting smoking, doing laps around their truck if they were stopped to get their steps in, water intake instead of soda, one-on-one coaching, which held them accountable, and another number of other wellness initiatives. The client also agreed to host semi-annual meetings with all of their drivers. So they paid for all of their drivers to come to our location in Minnesota. And we celebrated their success. It was a great event, the first one. It's still going on today, where we had booths set up for checking blood pressure, checking their biometrics. We offered tips on, healthy meals and snacks that they can quickly and easily make in their trucks using, limited number of ingredients and limited equipment. We also offered help on what to look for on labels for when they were shopping at, truck stops or gas stations. So, healthy snacks versus maybe not so healthy snacks. And we printed T-shirts for all their drivers. It was a great event. It was a lot of fun, especially the first one to get to see their engagement, and a lot of their spouses came too. So it did become kind of a community thing. This client also does offer some spectacular things for their employees. They built an employee and driver lounge where they have laundry facility, showers, a full kitchen, televisions, internet access, recliners. So if they get into town late, employees can simply use their PIN code and get into the lounge and stay as long as they want to. So as a result of their efforts at a time when trucking companies are scraping to find employees, this client of ours had drivers applying left and right to work for the company. So they also, they give out different bonuses for longevity. They have great longevity. They have drivers that have worked for the company for 20, 30, 40 years or more, which is, almost unheard of in this day and age. It's great. So with the client willing to be on board and, help with employee wellness, I really feel that we've helped them create strong retention metrics, as well as, or maybe more importantly, help them increase their driver longevity so that they can be around for their family and their friends longer. All right, I like actionable steps. So here's some actionable steps to becoming an employer of choice. So starting with your average turnover rate and cost, you can get a better understanding of how greatly recruitment and retention are impacting your company. So the metrics will help you uncover the true picture. So studies show that replacing a full-time employee costs 6 to 9 months salary on average. So one would have to assume that figures would be higher for a higher level position, maybe slightly lower for a lower level position, but it gives you a good gauge. Providing that specific and targeted thank you to your employees. I talked about this elsewhere at length, but again, I challenge and encourage you to spend 10 seconds explaining why you're thankful. Costs you nothing and is very impactful. Offering that robust benefits package, nothing new here, but offering those choices can help you become an employer of choice. I mean, of course, things like generous or even competitive PTO, holiday packages, those are attractive to employees as well. And in manufacturing specifically, safety is huge. You want your employees to go home every night with all their fingers and all their limbs. So making sure that your safety protocols, trainings, and practices align with that goal and that desire. A couple more things here, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is simply just a term that means creating a workplace where everyone feels welcome, valued, respected, and has equal opportunity to succeed. So these are three, pretty closely linked values that organizations can hold that just are supportive of different groups. When employees promote when businesses promote diversity, they're perceived as more reputable, more socially responsible to a greater number of people. So this can improve your overall brand reputation, as well as, get some more of those applicants in. So just to tie a statistic to it, an Indeed survey showed that 17% of job seekers say inclusivity and diversity displayed in the hiring process is one of the top factors for determining to apply to that company and staying with that company. So a company could consider, fostering a culture of diversity and inclusion by implementing even just policies and practices that encourage a diverse workforce. So for example, we had a client recently that we developed a paid family leave policy for. There's Minnesota legislation right now on this too, but this was in line prior to that. So this client, with our help here, made the wording of this paid leave policy as such where it said, the birthing parent, specifically related to the birth of a child, the birthing parent receives 10 weeks of PTO or time off, paid leave, and the non-birthing parent receives 2 weeks. So instead of saying the mother receives 10 weeks and the father receives 2 weeks, we stated the birthing parent receives 10 weeks and the non-birthing parent receives 2 weeks. So again, just a simple wording choice that can help increase that diversity, equity, and inclusion. Another example is we had another client of ours decide to add 2 floating holidays to their paid holiday schedule. to allow employees of all backgrounds to celebrate the holidays that were impactful or important to them. So something very easily that could be done to help that with those efforts. All right, transparency is a driver of employee engagement. So the more transparent you are, I mean, obviously there's a limit here, but transparency will drive employee engagement. So if your employees know the why of something, it's a lot easier for them to comply. Nobody likes to be told what to do necessarily if they don't understand the bigger picture. So employees are no different. So having that discussion gives employees access to leaders and leaders, decision making, which is something that they crave. And customers and clients, they drive change. Really, they help a company innovate, which in turn helps the company grow. So continuous improvement is something that is necessary for a business to grow. If employees can be involved in the process, that helps with their viewpoint of the company as well. All right. So emphasizing career development opportunities, providing training, development programs, mentorship opportunities, and career advancement opportunities help become an employer of choice as well. They help demonstrate those company values and help that you're invested in employees' growth and development with the company as well. So establishing a comprehensive training program that allows employees to shine and do their best work and do work that's important to them will help with that. So how do we know what's important to them, you ask? Great question. So asking employees to complete personality assessments can provide valuable information to supervisors, managers, and the company. There are a number of reputable assessments out there. The DISC profile, Strengths Finder, 6 Working Geniuses, just to name a few. There's many more. And some are free. So do some research and determine what you want to gain from the assessment data, and then choose the one that best fits you. Promise you'll be glad you did. Kind of as a tip here, if you've never done any type of personality assessment with your employees, this can be a useful tool in a number of scenarios. So I've recommended, in my work as an HR director, I've recommended and used these assessments for team building, as part of conflict resolution training, as part of training in general, getting employees to help understand each other better. I've also used them to determine an employee's desire and aptitude for greater responsibility or growth within the organization. All right, one last question for you. We've talked about a few different actionable steps here. I'm curious, I like actionable steps, I like takeaways. I want you to feel that your time was valuable. So as a result of this webinar, what's one thing, just one thing that you would like to take back to your company and implement? Doesn't necessarily have to be anything that we talked about, just something that you'd like to push forward. We'll go ahead and use the chat function again. I'll give you a second to think about what that might be. I'd love to see your responses. I'm curious. All right. Great. Well, that's good feedback. Thank you. Thank you, those that have participated. We'll go ahead and move along. If you're still looking for more ways to become an employer of choice, I do have a couple great resources listed that you might consider. A Cure for the Common Company delivers, really a roadmap that can help you. Sorry, I was distracted by the chat function. My apologies. Excuse me. A roadmap for delivering a health and wellness within your team to be more productive and engaged. Employees that are, more productive and engaged, they generally, and they're well, they generally have less severe work comp claims. So that's something that you can definitely take to the bank. Excuse me. Wow, there we go. Another great book that I just recently finished is The Empathy Advantage. It helps leaders lead with empathy rather than just being focused on productivity. It does offer advice on how to lead, multi-generational workforce. And as I mentioned or alluded to, mental health has become very prevalent. There's a statistic right from the Mental Health Foundation that 1 in 6 people experience a mental health problem in the workplace, and women who work full-time are nearly twice as likely to have a common mental health issue. So 1 in 3 women who work full-time are likely to have a common mental health issue. So if you haven't dove into employee wellness or mental health resources for your team, now would be a really great time to look into those resources. In my career as an HR director and as a certified mental health first aid responder, I've learned that it is crucial to be able to recognize those signs and symptoms that employees may be struggling. So you do truly have the power to save a life in the right situation. Again, that number is 988. Just have a comment here, where are those books available? I found them on Amazon. I would assume you can find them, anywhere online. So I hope that helps. All right, and then I have a couple of minutes here left for questions. You can go ahead and use the chat function or unmute yourself. I'm just going to leave my contact information up here for the next minute in case we get any questions in. I love this feedback. There's been a couple items in the chat function that people are planning to, not just say thank you, but let them know what a positive impact that they made. Thank you. That's exactly what's needed. Absolutely free. And then another is how to engage managers as well as owners in appreciating and valuing all employees, not just the favorites. That's huge. All employees are engaged into a successful company, and for that, they should be valued and appreciated. Absolutely, 100% agree. All right. If there's no questions, I will turn it back over to Alyssa.
Yes, I was just going to add, if there's any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, we just want to thank you so much, Ashley, for your presentation today, and thank you for everybody for attending. Just a reminder that the session was recorded today, so please feel free to reach out if you'd like a copy of the recording. I will send it to those that were registered today, and it'll be available on our website. So.
Well, thank you, everyone. Again, I really appreciate your feedback and engagement.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Great day, everyone.